I'm Sarah Franklin, the director of the Q Plus program, and I'm really thrilled to welcome you all here. It's great to see so many people here on the first week back of summer term. Oh, is it really summer term? I was thinking maybe it was winter again. This is a super event, and so before I introduce our very distinguished speaker, I'd like to say just a little bit about how we came to organize the Rainbow Lecture and the Rainbow Journey that brought us here. The Q Plus initiative here at Cambridge has now been running for nearly a decade. It began in the spring of 2016 at a sociology department meeting where we decided to fundraise in this area for a post in LGBTQ studies. The initial funding for a research program came from the School of Humanities and Social Sciences in 2017, and the LGBTQ plus at Cambridge program was officially launched in January 2018. So we are now in our 7th year of programming, and we have hosted and co-hosted over 200 events with more than 50 partners across all 6 schools here at Cambridge and well beyond. Q Plus has helped to run events that link the humanities and the social sciences, humanities and social sciences to the STEM subjects, and our programs are particularly valued for being creative, interdisciplinary, non-compliant, and engaged with diverse sectors inside and outside of the university. Dozens of world-leading artists, activists, academics, entrepreneurs, third sector champions, and scientists have spoken to packed audiences just like this via the Q Plus program here at Cambridge, and it is widely assumed, I'm often told, that we are now one of the leading LGBTQ research centers in Europe, which is really interesting since we have no official academic staff or funding. And it kind of maybe tells you something important that that's the case. So we can correct that. And this, of course, is especially heartening to know at a time when there are so many urgent reasons for programs like Q Plus not only to survive and exist, but to thrive. So, from the very start of the program, Cambridge LGBTQ Plus alumni have been an absolutely amazing, inspiring, and effective source of support. Daniel Gehring from Travers Smith, Aaron Singh from Clifford Chance, Lord Chris Smith, Master of Pembroke, Jan Gooding, former chair of Stonewall, all Cambridge LGBTQ alumni who have been instrumental in enabling this program to continue, often despite no at all. And they've been not only instrumental in helping our program to exist practically and logistically, but also they've been particularly effective in helping us to ensure the Q Plus research agenda is an ever more prominent part of college, as well as departmental life. So I want in particular to thank Stephen Friel and Emma Wolcott, who I believe are here. Stephen's here, is Emma here? Yeah, Emma's here, Emma, and also to Matt Maddox, who unfortunately isn't here, I don't think, who have together launched the highly successful Cambridge LGBTQ alumni program, which was founded in 2018 and has been very successful. Is that right, 2018? 2019. It's been very successful, and I'm sure will be increasingly successful as well. So this, along with the highly successful LGBTQ plus staff association run by Dr. Castle, who unfortunately can't be here tonight because he's ill, but hopefully listening. Thank you so much, Dr. has been a vital part of the organization for Q Plus. And so to our speaker. another very distinguished alumni. Sandi Toksvig is the inaugural Qantab Fellow, and the Rainbow Lecture is linked to this program, which we set up specifically to enable Cambridge LGBTQ alumni to spend a period of time at Cambridge and to work on a project that interests them, and also because we wanted to recognize the importance of this very special group to the collegiate university as a whole, as well as Q+. And we could not have had a more inspiring, energetic, committed, popular, or successful inaugural appointee to this role than Sandi Toksvig. Characteristically, Sandi has delivered a true watch and learn masterclass on how to join, enrich, enliven, and engage the academic community, and as many of you know, that is not necessarily true. As many of you know, Sandi is a highly distinguished writer, actor, director, broadcaster, and entertainer. She's also a gifted lecturer, public speaker, and educator, having served as the Chancellor of the University of Portsmouth from 2012 to 2017, and having been awarded numerous academic fellowships and 5 honorary doctorates. Doctor. Sandi is a seasoned activist, having campaigned around the world for women's and human rights, and co-founded the Women's Equality Party in 2015. She's also known for her exceptional perseverance and courage as an openly lesbian parent in the 1990s, long before that was as acceptable as it is today. And she has been an unashamed, outspoken advocate of gay and trans liberation throughout her career. Thank you, Sandi. These parties have been much in permanence since Sandi joined us in October as the inaugural Qantab Fellow. And in addition to presiding over many memorable events here in Cambridge, she has also shared her pathway to the Macamundi Project with individuals and groups across the university. This unique collaborative digital project to counter the gender male streaming of sites like Wikipedia offers a unique opportunity to link the work of the university to wider audiences and vice versa. We're honored to be part of the Macamundi project, bringing it to life and hosting Sandi in the Department of Sociology as well as Christ's College. Thank you to the Master of Christ's College. Simon is also here. It's been wonderful to have Sandi become part of both of these communities. And so without any further ado, please can we have a truly raucous welcome for our enormously Qantab with a Q, Sandi Toksvig.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much for coming. I just tell you, I've learned a lot while I've been here. So I do know which way to pass the port. Thank you, Simon, for teaching me. What I'm not in complete command of is how many pages makes up an hour's lecture. So if I get faster towards the end, it may be that I've got a little bit too much to say. In 1926, a play called The Captive opened on Broadway, and it was so shocking that in the end the police closed it down. Now, it was shocking because the heroine, Irene de Montel, she returns from her honeymoon and she receives a package from a female friend. And inside is a corsage of violets. Now, her reaction hints to the audience that this is the shocking part, they got it closed down, this is not any female friend, this is an old lover. So it was the ancient Greek poet Sappho who wrote of crowns of violets worn by women, and the meaning was clear. And soon any lesbian worth her salt in the United States was wearing violets to indicate her particular inclinations. So when I was asked to give the Rainbow Lecture, I thought it was ideal that I give a violet view. And I thought I would start by taking you to one of my favorite places in the world. This is Provincetown in the United States. It is a stunning coastal town which lies here on the eastern seaboard of the United States. It is one of only 2 north-facing peninsulas in the world, and the other one is my native country of Denmark. And I don't know if that's why I like it. Yes, there's one Danish person. I don't know if that's why I feel at home there. I suspect it is much more to do with the fact that Provincetown has the highest proportion of same-sex couples in America, in particular women. I have to tell you, it's an LGBTQ plus haven. So the very first time I went there, I was in my early 20s, and I walked into this shop on Provincetown High Street. It was founded in 1976, coincidentally, the year I got my place at Cambridge. And Woman's Crafts was, and I think remains, one of the few feminist bookshops in the States. And the place was full of things to buy which expressed pride in being gay. And I was overwhelmed. And I had never seen such a thing. And I almost didn't dare buy anything. But I took a few little items to the desk, and the woman smiled at me and said, "Would you like the lesbian discount?" The discount for being a lesbian, and the world's gone mad. I left the shop, I stood on those very steps feeling as though I could truly breathe for the very first time in my life. I had arrived somewhere that I felt safe, and it was both terrifying and glorious. Now I am the inaugural Q Plus Fellow, as hard to believe. So some of you may know, in 1979, I was here as my last year as an undergraduate at Girton, and I was hauled before my tutor, and it had been discovered that I was in a lesbian relationship, and the college was considering whether or not to send me down. Now, I asked what rule I had broken. It was hard to say. They didn't want to talk about it at all. I think it was just being. I think it was a just being rule that I had broken. And I waited 3 weeks for the decision before being told that I was allowed to stay on the count of my excellent academic record. So if you're going to be gay, please be smart about it. Make sure you pass your exams, okay? I stayed, but I spent my 3rd year with many members of the college sending me to Coventry and pretending that I did not exist. So I'm here today because I'm a lesbian. I got the lesbian discount for being a fellow. And I can tell you, it is still both terrifying and glorious. When I am not here, I am lucky enough to live in an ancient woodland. This is an amazing place. It's a wood where humans and wildlife have coexisted for more than 1,000 years, as far as we know, almost certainly longer. Sadly, this place, when we got it, has been neglected for generations. And what happens without management is a forest, too many trees take root, and they begin to crowd each other out. And in response, individual species grow tall and thin, and they don't develop the outward branches designed to steady them, but instead it's a sort of struggle, it's a sort of unsteady race upwards, desperate to reach the light. It's a forest that is not working in harmony, but in competition. So since becoming guardians of the land, my wonderful wife and I, we have begun the slow process of rewilding. We're determined to make at least one small corner of this planet come back to life. So over the last 2 years, we have created open spaces. We have welcomed sunshine down onto the dark forest floor, and we have created fresh habitats for most amazing wide range of creatures. Trees we thought were dead have burst back into leaf. Last spring, our small herd of deer delivered beautiful twin babies, and a kaleidoscope of butterflies now flutter across the grass meadow painted with wildflowers. We are on target to increase the biodiversity already by 30%, and this year the bluebells have doubled in number. There is a lifetime of work ahead, but each day brings a new reward, and plus, I've learned to work a chainsaw. Oh, so empowering for a small woman of 65. This is the most marvellous thing. I am telling you, do not mess with me ever again. This is not a good thing. So in order to pay for all this, and indeed the chainsaw, and to be able to afford to come to Cambridge, I show off for a living. That is what I do. I began my career on television in 1980. Hard for all of you to believe, I'm sure. But there were only 3 channels then. Okay? So there was BBC One, which was for everyone. There was BBC Two, which was for anybody who had read a book. And there was ITV, which was commercial and therefore thought to be cheap and tawdry. And I was on ITV. And because there were only 3 channels, anybody who was on them became famous incredibly quickly. So aged 23, I became publicly known. Known in a sphere of work where, as far as I knew, no woman had ever lived openly as a gay person. Then in 1994, under threat from the tabloids, I did an unheard of thing. I revealed to the press that I was in a relationship with a woman. And I revealed it because by then we had 3 children. And we 2 mums, we didn't care about my career. We didn't want our kids growing up in the shadow of a secret. We revealed this. The very next day, the front page of the Daily Mail declared, if God had meant lesbians to have children, he would have made it possible. Now, I feel this shows the level of intelligence of the Daily Mail. We already had 3 children. It clearly was possible. But despite that, the death threats started coming, and the whole family, for a considerable amount of time, had to go into hiding. I'll be honest, when I came out, I don't really know why anybody was surprised, okay? I personally thought my lesbianism was hard to miss. Even my mother knew. It's old school, it's stereotypical, it was partly my shoes, partly my tremendous ability with power tools. It's, hence the chainsaw. Anyway, I was told my career was over, much like my time at Cambridge. Everything was over, and I would never work again. Much to the consistent irritation of the Daily Mail, I have somehow managed to struggle on, and here I am giving a rainbow lecture, which I'm going to begin with this guy. Now, this guy is Kevin Swanson. Kevin Swanson, he would want me to tell you, was vehemently not gay. He would really hate that he is in my rainbow lecture. Possibly I might even dedicate it to him, I think. Kevin is a pastor. He is a right-wing Christian. He hosts a right-wing Christian-themed radio show in Colorado. Now, I don't know what you think, but I think putting right-wing next to Christian always seems a tad more judgmental than the basic text suggests as a way forward. But anyway, ironically, in quite a Christian way, even though I don't like what he stands for, I do worry about him because he gets so upset. He believes that the reason terrorism exists is because there are gay people. No, that's it. That's the whole of it, okay? There would be no terrorist incidents if there were no gay people. Kevin also believes that proud gays will go to hell, where God very kindly has made room for them. He's not clear where the less proud gays will go, the diffident ones. I don't know what will happen to them. He has been much too busy to worry about them because he's worried about the Disney film Frozen. Kevin is keen for everybody to understand that this billion-dollar movie was the work of the devil, and the main intention of the Disney Corporation is to persuade young women to become lesbians. Okay? Now, I felt irritated by this because I was persuaded to be lesbianic before the film was released. So I have to tell you that my coming out is a much less appealing soundtrack than... And the only thing to be fair to Kevin, I have been in a gay bar where a woman gave me that look. I have. That is... Anyway, Disney aren't just recruiting lesbians. I don't want you to think there's a niche thing that they're doing. In Kevin's head, the film not only encourages homosexuality, but somehow bestiality as well, which may or may not be what's happening here. I don't really know what he thinks about that. The good thing about him, he's an equal opportunity children's entertainment conspiracist. Harry Potter also upsets him enormously. He urged America repent of Harry Potter repent that Dumbledore emerged as a homosexual mentor for Harry Potter, he said, for tens of millions of parents, it would be better that a millstone be hung around their children's neck and they be drowned at the bottom of the sea. Seriously, your kids, better dead than gay. I mean, it's not a great t-shirt, but that is the slogan that Kevin would go for. In 2015, he addressed a religious conference in Des Moines, Iowa, where he spoke about a biblical mandate for the death penalty for homosexuals, but said we shouldn't kill them just yet, give them a chance to repent, which is nice. So, Kevin is not alone on what I call HMS Looney Tunes. Last year, the United States elected a new speaker to the House of Representatives. This is Mike Johnson. Mike, I quote, homosexual relationships are inherently unnatural and the studies clearly show are ultimately harmful and costly for everyone. I don't know what it means. I think it's like a gay tax, and I'm really sorry. I'm so sorry about the cost to everybody. So unnatural. Well, here is the problem with having a good education. It makes me question everything. Unnatural. Well, let's have a look, shall we? Although I do have to warn you that this is going to involve some chat about sex, which is awkward. Those bloody gay people turn up, first thing they want to do is talk about sex. It's tricky stuff, sex, isn't it? You can't find a good way to be polite about it, and yet we can't be here without it. So it's complicated. When I was taught the basics of sex at school, it was about an entirely binary world of male and female. I went to an all-girls boarding school. We were taught sex in the 5th form. We were taught with the blinds all lowered in all the windows because nobody wanted the 4th form to see what was going on. I'll be honest with you, it made it rather dark. I couldn't see very well either. I have sometimes wondered if the whole lesbian thing was a misunderstanding on my part. Anyway, fundamentally, I gathered that sex was something boys did to girls in order that we could ignore our schooling and stay home with babies. That's fundamentally how I understood it. And we learned that the female egg lies there helpless, waiting for the hordes of male sperm to race each other to arrive first. It was all about male penetration from the get-go in the great gamete race. The egg just sat there, sort of immobile virgin territory. It's a sort of sleeping beauty, waiting for the boys to battle it out as they race to be the conquering hero who gets to fertilize the ova. Except that isn't right. And I should have questioned it, but I didn't think to question it in the 5th form. For 2 years, I read law here at Cambridge, and I had the great privilege of being taught by Lord Denning, who was Master of the Rolls, and I have to tell you, without a doubt, the finest and best-loved judge in British history. It was such a privilege. And the very first lecture he gave that I attended, he arrived and looked at us all, and the first thing he said was, "Why should you believe me?" And what he taught us was to question everything, even expert opinions, even his opinion. So let's have another look at this, okay? Let's have another look. Let's question this. This picture appears to be about the male as the sexual pursuer and the female waiting to submit, but it is not what happens. In fact, what we now know, it is the egg which is the active decider of who gets to begin fertilization. So it's a process called capacitation, and it's the egg which secretes an enzyme to activate the winning sperm. Without it, the sperm is helpless, absolutely helpless. So far from assaulting the egg triumphantly, the boys effectively have to knock on the door and be selected and then be guided in. This is not conquest, this is permission. The egg is in charge. The other thing I learned as a child was if a woman did succumb to the great male sperm race and was having a baby, a polite question to ask would be boy or girl. It was a binary choice. But it turns out the world is much more interesting than that. And that doesn't really cover it. Nobody mentions, for example, intersex, the children born with genitals, chromosomes, or reproductive organs that don't fit into a male-female sex binary. And the fact is there are more children born intersex than with red hair. So I'm going to say it's a good idea to tell prospective parents it's just a possibility, okay? And here is that nature thing again. This is true not just for humans. There are plenty of intersex animals. I live with deer, so on a daily basis, let's consider the white-tailed deer. These are marvelous creatures. They live in highly sex-segregated societies. The females all live with their fawns and yearlings, and the males all stick together in groups of their own. So as they grow from yearlings to adults, all the males go through a phase where they have these glorious velvet horns. It's a sort of soft fuzz that covers their antlers and is eventually shed to reveal bone. Except some yearlings have external male genitals, never shed their velvet, and have bodies which are closer to female deer. They don't join either the boys' group or the girls' group. They have a group of their own, not male or female, but intersex. They don't reproduce, but they actually go on to have much healthier lives because they don't fight with each other at all. There's the softies, the intersex deer. The velvet deer are softies. And I love this. If they come across an abandoned fawn, they take it in. I know, right? Immediately. Oh. But science has traditionally found this not exactly male, not exactly female, middle ground, extremely disturbing. So, 1878, there was a Scottish anatomist called Morrison Watson, and he encountered hyenas for the first time. And he admitted it was really hard to tell them apart, okay? Because the females externally have what's known as pseudo-penises. So I just want you to be ready for the first of my shocking pictures. There will be a little bit of porn. So this is a female hyena. I guess a couple of shocked faces. It's an avant-garde look, and it upset what Watson believed he knew about the binary nature of biology. So you know what he did? He overlooked the pseudo-penis. He just thought, well, let's not really talk about that. He just said, if it's got ovaries, it's a female. If it doesn't, it's a male. There we go, that's it. Instead of trying to maybe think of a more interesting explanation, he preferred things placed in two neat boxes. Unclear sexual differentiation is true of many creatures. Let's change pictures, something cuter. That's much cuter. There we go. Last summer, we had the great privilege of releasing 3 baby tawny owls from a wildlife hospital into our woods. And I have to tell you, we have no idea if they were lads or lasses, or neither. You would need an X-ray to find out. And we didn't bother because we didn't care. We just wanted them to come and live with us. Watson liked to think of himself as a scientist studying hyenas, yet he shied away from what he could see, okay? And much of what I want to talk about is right in front of us, but we don't get the education. So here are some of the other basics I was taught. You just know I'm going to question it. I was categorically informed that it is nature's fancy that there are males and females. The males are bigger and prettier, and the rather feckless females will, as a consequence, fancy them. You can just see it. There you go. Charles Darwin, of course, it's mad for this idea. Mad for it. He just loved the whole natural selection notion. I don't know if you've read The Descent of Man. Let me save you the trouble. He posited that in most species of mammals, males are larger than female. I have to say he didn't cite evidence to back up this claim, but his view on sexual size dimorphism was readily accepted as fact, and it still dominates today. So, with all due respect to Charlie Darwin, first of all, loads of creatures don't fit into the big man, small woman stereotype. The hyena doesn't. The hyena females are bigger, and neither does this. So this is the not wildly attractive anglerfish. And when they were very first fished out of the sea, they live in the deep sea, every time they fished one out, first of all it was female, and then it always had a small parasite attached to it. What we now know is that's the male. The male anglerfish is 40 times smaller than the female. It has been described as a mere appendage or nothing but a pair of gonads. The glorious thing about the natural world is that once you start taking a look, you find a world of surprises, each one of which might upset the tabloids who prefer things a tad more conservative. Let's talk about one of my favourites. This is the green spoon worm, which hardly ever rates as dinner party chit-chat, but is just fantastic. So it's a very wide-ranging species. It's found in the northeast Atlantic Ocean, the Mediterranean Sea. So the female has a green, 15 centimetre long, sort of round or sausage-shaped body, and it lives in burrows on the sea floor. It's got 2 anchoring hooks underneath the body, and it has an extendable feeding proboscis, which is 10 times the body length. So you have to imagine that it's got a body like this and a nose that's my height. Okay, this is quite a significant nose. Now, the male is hardly ever seen, and that is because it only grows 1 to 3 millimeters. Okay, so at best it's about 2% of the size of the female. And its body is pretty much just reproductive organs. It lives usually just outside or sometimes inside the body of the female. So here's what happens. When a green spoonworm is born, it doesn't have any sex at all. And nobody has told it that that's going to be a problem. Like, nobody's mentioned it. Nobody's like, oh, no, nothing. It just starts swimming around the sea looking for the enormous roving tongue of a female. I mean, it's just a great sentence, isn't it? It's just a great... And if they don't find one, what they do is they become female themselves, okay? But if they do find a female tongue, they become male. They crawl through the female's mouth into her ovary and become a sperm-producing machine. And the male has to feed through his skin because his mouth is constantly spewing out sperm. Right? If you're going to come back, you want to come back as a male, a green spoonworm? I don't think so. The sex of a green spoonworm is determined by external environmental factors, and it is not determined by internal genetic factors. And this environmental sex determination helps the populations respond to the availability of burrows on the floor. So sex here is related to housing, right? It's a housing issue. Sometimes sex is determined by social needs. So take the blue-headed wrasse fish. It's a marvelous fish, lives in small social groups in coral reefs in the Caribbean. Only the male has a blue head. Right? This signals his social dominance over a complete harem of entirely yellow females. So you get one boy with a blue head and lots and lots of yellow girls. Now, if the boy is removed, because there's only one, if he's removed from the group, the most extraordinary thing happens. The largest female in the group changes sex to become male. And her behaviour changes within minutes. The minute he's gone, taken away or killed, straight away her behaviour changes and she begins to take charge. Within 10 days, her ovaries are transformed into sperm-producing testes. Within 21 days, she appears completely male. One male in a harem of females ruling the roost until another, perhaps stronger male turns up, and then she goes back to being female with a full swap of her reproductive paraphernalia. There are more than 500 fish species that regularly change sex as adults, including this guy. I mean, Disney really are trying to destroy us, so they're not. It's very clear. Groups of clownfish are led by a female. The second-in-command fish is male. When the leader dies, the next in line, male, changes into female in order to become the leader. And that is the movie I would like to see. So if you want to look for sexual fluidity, dive into the sea or even into a flower bed. I want to talk just briefly about smut, okay? So this is a word, nobody uses it very much anymore. People say, oh, she's a bit smutty. My smut that I want to tell you about is very specific. It's called anthosmut, and it's a disease which infects moss. This moss here, Silene acolus. So when it's healthy, it looks like this. It produces beautiful pink flowers that are either female, okay, or they are hermaphroditic. So if you look at this picture here, it's female on the left and the one on the right is hermaphroditic, has both male and female parts. And now, typically, a single plant will only produce one flower. It can be sexed as being female or hermaphroditic. But there's a pathogen called anthosmut, which can infect the plant and cause it to undergo an involuntary sex reassignment. So the way the disease is spread, it's spread by insects that pollinate the flowers, and fungal spores, along with pollen, are carried on the bodies, imagine, of bees and other insects, and deposited on those flowers as the insect visits. When the spores are carried to a hermaphroditic flower and infect it, they specifically attack the male sex organs, the anthers, and replace the pollen they contain with fungal spores. And then they leave a a dark telltale soot like smudge. That's the smut. Okay, that's why it's called smut. And then another insect will visit, the bee will visit this, it will get covered in this fungal spore, and it will take it to the next flower, and the cycle repeats. Now, the fungus finds it easier to spread really quickly via the male anthers, because they're sticking up, right? The bug is gonna rub against it. So what do they do with the female plants? They turn them hermaphrodite. When a female plant is infected, it undergoes an involuntary sex change. It begins producing hermaphroditic flowers with male anthers full of fungal spores. It appears that this pathogen has the ability to flip the genetic switch of its host and instigate a floral sex change. Sex reassignment in the wild. Is it natural? I don't know what else to call it. Flowers with both male and female reproductive structures are known as bisexual, hermaphroditic, or rather pleasingly, perfect flowers. And they include the ones that Mike Johnson, Speaker of the House of Representatives, might buy for his mother or his wife. They include the rose, the lily. Most plants with showy flowers actually are hermaphrodite. My beloved bluebells, for example. About 4,000 species of plant produce both male and bisexual flowers in the same plant, and the ones that do so seem to be better at reproduction. The natural world is full of wonder and smut. It is awash with intersex examples, and I have to warn you, there's a lot of gay sex as well. Just going to warn you now, I can see my mother almost shaking her head saying, oh, you just think gay people are everywhere. Well, I don't think it's everywhere. I, so far, not found it readily available in Waitrose, but I do know... I do know there's a lot. So far, we know of over 1,500 animal species who are known to practice same-sex coupling, including all main groups from invertebrates, so insects, spiders, nematodes, to vertebrates, fish, amphibians, reptiles, birds, mammals. Same-sex sexual behavior is particularly prevalent in non-human primates, so lemurs to apes. And this sexual behavior is not limited to one sex, nor does it only happen in particular circumstances. So you get it's been observed in males and in females, both in captivity and in the wild. You can't just say it's because they were captive or because it's just the boys mucking about. So take, for example, the male bighorn sheep, which are native to North America. Do you think when somebody first saw one, they thought, what the heck shall we call that? What shall we refer to that as? Oh, I know, bighorn sheep. Anyway, the horns are massive. They can weigh 15 pounds each. And these sheep live in what is often called homosexual societies. They bond through sex. And if a male sheep chooses not to have gay sex, it becomes a social outcast. Ironically, scientists call these straight-laced males effeminate. These are effeminate bighorn sheep. All of this detail that I'm telling you is left out of the descriptions you will find on the internet about sheep, including everything in Wikipedia. Mostly they focus on breeding and when females are in season. They don't mention the gay thing at all, because in general, sex for fun is not well recorded, okay? We have taught that sex is for procreation, it's not recreation. The domestic sheep, I have to say, has not got the message. This is the Ovis eris. It's the only species of animal apart from humans, which exhibits exclusive homosexual behavior. About 10% of rams, males, refuse to mate with ewes. It's not my thing. They just go, I'm sorry, I don't care. It's not my thing. But 30% of all rams demonstrate homosexual behavior, and as about 8% exhibit homosexual preferences, will choose a male over a female. And there's an awful lot of bisexual rams. Lions have gay encounters. They often band together. They're brothers to lead the bride, and they strengthen the bonds by having sex together. Giraffes have all-male orgies. So do West Indian manatees, bottlenose dolphins, killer whales, grey whales, thousands of other creatures. Japanese macaques are ardent lesbians. Ardent lesbians. Just love it. Enthusiastically mounting each other. And bonobos, oh my God. I mean, one of humanity's closest relatives, the entire species is bisexual, and sex is super important. It pretty much takes part in every single activity they do. They seem to manage, let's have lunch, oh, and sex. It's literally everything. But it solves issues rather than fighting. I have to say, bonobos, their lesbian sexual encounters occur almost every 2 hours, which even for me, that's a lot, isn't it? And the social network is maintained not only by sharing food and the childering, but also by having sex. Sex for fun. Don't even start me on fruit flies who continue to have sex even when they're dying. And the males, and I couldn't find a picture of this, I'm really sorry, but apparently they like to do it in what can only be described as a conga line, which I would have enjoyed. Enjoyed showing. Fruit fly porn, you don't get that in many lectures, do you? So. And this will blow Mike Johnson's mind. You don't even need to have sex to have babies. Whiptail lizards are asexual females which can produce fertilized eggs without the need for sperm and who form social bonds with other females by courting them. Having homosexual sex is the equivalent of a cup of tea and a biscuit. Pretty much everybody in the natural world likes it and does it at some time. You name it, there is a vertebrate out there who does it. Even the briefest study that I've given you of the natural world puts paid to the argument that same-sex relations are unnatural. Indeed, Joan Roughgarden, who's a professor of biology at Stanford University, argues that homosexuality is a defining feature of advanced animal communities which require communal bonds in order to function. She says the more complex and sophisticated a social system is, the more likely it is to have homosexuality intermixed with heterosexuality. So it's a social phenomenon. It is the most widespread amongst animals with a complex herd life. If it wasn't useful, then surely evolution would have eliminated it from the gene pool by now, because it doesn't lead to reproduction. Now, I didn't learn any of this at school. But I did learn that actually all of that, everything I'm telling you, has been known for a very long time. Unfortunately, lots of scientists have felt a little bit queasy about it. I found some fantastic title of scientific papers from the past. So here's one, sexual perversion in male beetles. Disturbances of the sexual sense in baboons. Aberrant sexual behavior in the South African ostrich. Abnormal sexual behavior of confined female long-eared hedgehogs. And my absolute favourite, from 1987, a note on the apparent lowering of morals. In the Lepidoptera. It's a marvellous, this last one describes mature male Mazarine butterflies mating with other male butterflies. And I'm afraid that picture there is a picture of gay butterfly porn actually happening. The science is freely available. It's been available for a really long time, right? But there are plenty of people who refuse to see us, to see humanity, as merely part of the natural world. They will tell you that there's no point in me explaining all this to you because we're not animals, right? We're not animals. It's not the same. We have consciousness. We go to lectures. We are a higher being. We are in charge. Right, we can do all sorts of things animals can't do, like open the fridge and fire a gun, destroy the planet, pass the port the right way. There's all sorts of things. And we can verbalize what we are thinking. So the real question is, what do we all do with this cognitive brilliance that we have? Why, we become judgmental and develop systemic oppression. One thing that does seem to be absolutely exclusive to humans is homophobia. Last year, like so many times before, I marched in several pride parades, including in Copenhagen and Stockholm. We came across in Stockholm this great sign held aloft, I have to say by somebody possibly not entirely on board with the happy day. It's a fantastic list of people who are going to hell. Drunkards, fornicators, homosexuals, hypocrites, masturbators, atheists, abortionists, revelers, blasphemers, liars, and general heathen in case you didn't feel included. I have to say, I misread abortionists as receptionists and caused much laughter. Of course, I marched in London, which never disappoints. 1 million people of every age and every description, all dressed in colours of the rainbow, took to the sunny streets and we partied. We sang, we danced, it was infectious. And along this route of unbridled joy, there was a small, rather dark side turning, where by chance the tall buildings on either side had blocked out the sunshine. And here, there was about a dozen evangelical Christians who had set themselves up with signs about the extent to which we happy marchers were all condemned, going to hell, those sort of cheery messages. And a man in a very ill-fitting grey suit was shouting through a megaphone. And this small, angry group, they were a sort of montage of dour colours, as if they were, I don't know, attending a funeral. And possibly they were looking ahead, because the man in charge was very red in the face and did look on the edge of an angina attack. So he did not look long for the world. So we all stopped. We all stopped and blew him kisses. And he said that God would smite us. So I thought that sounded quite interesting, so I thought I'd wait and see how that went. But all I could hear was Kylie Minogue singing on a speaker. And I didn't think death by Kylie was a thing, so I moved on. In the last more than 4 decades of my public career, I've had many letters detailing how I ought to die. And they have all had one thing in common. The person who plans to kill me has always declared that they are doing so on God's behalf, because, despite being omnipotent, he's very busy and needs the help. And I like to think that I've unsettled their conviction, because so far at least I am still here, still working, still speaking out, so far not smited. I don't even know if that's a thing. And for those people, I think I must be very irritating. And I add to this annoyance by coming to my views after much thought and questioning. My father, Sandi Toksvig, was foreign correspondent for Danish television. I say this like we had many. Back in the 1960s, he was, for Denmark, the foreign correspondent. We just had the one. So he went off to investigate foreign things, and the whole family went with him, and being on the road became our life. And he was a brilliant journalist who pressed upon me the importance of seeking out facts before opinions. And because we travelled so much, a great deal of my growing up was spent living in not terribly good hotels. So much so that I remember my dad hiring a car and being asked for our permanent address, and he gave the address of the Samsonite Suitcase Company, because we just didn't have a permanent address. At this peripatetic time, so it was the late 1960s, this is a time before televisions were commonplace in hotel rooms. And the only entertainment, apart from my older brother and a pack of cards, was a reliably present copy of the Gideon Bible. Now, I love to read, I've always loved to read, I would usually finish my own book first, my brother often didn't want to play, my parents were always out, and so I was left with the good book, which I read. A lot. And when you read this work in total, you realise, first of all, how very male it is, how violent. Exodus tells us the Lord is a man of war, and how desperately in need of editing. And there was lots I didn't understand, such as the very first commandment. You shall have no other gods before me. I mean, if it was a friend who said, you shall have no other friends before me, I would think it suggests a degree of social anxiety, which might become annoying, a little bit clingy. Also, why have the rule unless other gods are in fact available? So it made me wonder what else was on offer. And I thought, I'd quite like a female one, and plenty to choose from for thousands of years before the very cross version of the Abrahamic religions. There had been goddesses worshipped all over the world, goddesses like Inanna of Mesopotamia. So from 6000 BC to 400 AD, she was in charge of the ancient Sumerian civilization, goddess of amazing love, sensuality, fertility, procreation, also war. She could have fun and fight. She was great. And she didn't get at all upset if people were not the traditional gender binary. She had priests in her temple known as Gala, who performed elegies and lamentations. And these were men who sometimes adopted female names. Their songs were composed in a dialect normally reserved for the speech of female characters, and there's even a suggestion that they had sex with each other. Inanna, not bothered, absolutely delighted. I liked her. I also liked all the Greek gods, most of whom I think would have been happy down a gay bar. Zeus liked women, also had that sexual relationship with the young mortal boy Ganymede. Apollo, god of the sun, married the Greek god of marriage, the unfortunately named Hymen, in a same-sex union. And let's not forget, bloody Disney again. Hercules is said to have had several male companions that helped him along his many adventures, such as Iolaus, who helped him defeat Hydra, the 9-headed monster, and their relationship was enshrined in Thebes, where ancient Greek male couples would exchange vows and pledges with their same-sex partner. Trying to understand the world has been one of my guiding lights, and I read religious texts of all kinds rather voraciously. In 1979, during my time as a law student, for the very first time, Islamic law was offered as part of the Cambridge curriculum. And 3 of us signed up, all women, 2 Muslims, and myself. And it was fascinating. I read the Quran from cover to cover, and I thought it was beautiful, and I liked a lot of it, very much indeed. And from my readings of these great books, I came to the view that its very core, all religion is, or ought to be, about love. And for the people who believe that, I applaud them. I think it's the most wonderful thing. Help yourself. The issue I have is that too often these key messages are twisted into a template for discrimination via horrible misinterpretation. Take that sign in Sweden, which claims to quote Hebrews 9:27. I looked at it and I thought, that doesn't feel right. If there was a list like that, I totally would have remembered it, right? So when you check it out, what it actually says is, just as people are destined to die once, and after that, to face judgment. That's it. There's no list. Words are tricky beasts, and the human beings who use them are flawed, and too often we lose each other in translation. There's that wonderful old, probably I think it's mythical tale of the CIA's first attempts to create a computer which could translate English into Russian. And it suggests that the English expression, the spirit is willing but the flesh is weak, was translated into Russian as the vodka is good but the meat's gone off. But we may have consciousness, but human beings are fallible, and this fallibility can be dangerous. This is the most marvelous sculpture of Moses by Michelangelo in Rome. It's incredibly impressive. What's weird, if you look at it, is that Moses has got horns growing out of his head. And it's a misunderstanding. Moses returns with the 10 Commandments in Exodus, and in Hebrew, the verb karan means shining, but there's a very similar word which means horned. And most likely, Moses was glowing and not wearing horns. And this mistranslation not only led to the inspiration behind one of Michelangelo's best statues, but also many centuries of illustrations depicting Jews with horns. Misunderstanding, misinterpretation. Words matter. There is a famous law case called Hines v. Berry, in which Lord Denning established the principle that damages may be paid to a person who has, may be paid by a person who has caused someone nervous shock. So it was a very famous case. A woman had stopped to pick flowers by the roadside when she witnessed her husband being killed by a reckless driver who crashed into their parked vehicle, and she sued the negligent driver for her resulting PTSD. And the opening line of Denning's judgment famously begins, "It happened on the 19th of April, 1964. It was bluebell time in Kent." And with that choice of words, we are all instantly with the woman who was in distress. So from Lord Denning, from my father, I learned you need to be careful with words. The anti-LGBT mob often use the Bible as their weapon, stating that its text makes clear that homosexuality is forbidden by God. In fact, it does no such thing. It is not there. For a start, the authors of the book were too busy thinking about shellfish and food poisoning, and nobody talked about sexual orientation. The word homosexual was not even coined until the late 19th century. There's a passage from Leviticus, often used to claim the anti-gay case in the modern English Bible. It's quoted as, "Man shall not lie with man, for it is an abomination." Do check out the original translation, Martin Luther's, from 1534. It is not "man shall lie with man, but boy molesters." It's a passage about paedophilia. It is not about supportive relationships. In fact, the word homosexual does not enter the Bible at all until 1946, a mistranslation pointed out at the time as a potential sacred weapon. And recent cases before the Supreme Court in the United States by white Christians are now leading to the misuse of religious liberty as a rationale for circumventing laws and regulations meant to protect a pluralistic democracy, such as non-discrimination protections for the queer population, women, and religious minorities. The 2024 presidential election already being characterized in Old Testament terms as a fight between light and dark, God against Satan, with liberals openly characterized as doing the work of the devil. Autocratic political leaders who espouse their religious values are backed even when they lose. Minority rule is used to marginalize opponents. And according to publicly available returns, there are now 11 non-profit groups in the United States identified as anti-LGBT, They have taken in millions and millions in contributions. Please do not think they are using them just in their own country. It is a war which the evangelical right have been very happy to export. I'm sure we all know about the devastating legislation last year which has hit the LGBT plus community in Uganda. It's among the harshest anti-gay laws in the world. And it landed after years of lobbying and millions of dollars from American groups. So for me, it's also important to look closer to home at the influence on our basic democratic rights. The United Kingdom, the mother of parliament's not immune. So you'll know we've got the two chambers, we've got the elected Commons, and we've got the House of Lords, where nobody's voted in. Other than China, the House of Lords is the most swollen, unelected legislative chamber in the world. Okay? Membership is by way of appointment, although the other way is to be in the Church of England. Now, despite the fact that more than half of British people declare themselves to be non-religious, and only 12% say they're members of the state church, 26 Anglican bishops sit as a matter of right in the House of Commons, in the House of Lords. That is 26 from one denomination in one part of the UK. It is the poster child for undemocratic. And during the long debate on same-sex marriage, I once heard one of these bishops, on Radio 4, obviously, declare that he thought gay people had enough equality. I know, enough. Equality. Not a word I thought you could qualify, but I thought it meant being of equal value. Look at me showing off my university education. Worth every penny. Not that I paid, and you should be very cross about that too. So, when same-sex marriage was voted upon, it will not surprise you that every single bishop who turned up voted against. But the law did change, some say. So yay, what am I complaining about? Indeed, I stand here as something I never thought possible. I am a married woman. 17 years ago, today, actually, my beautiful... My beautiful wife, Debbie, and I entered into a civil partnership. I can't tell you how thrilled she is to be spending our anniversary doing this. And then 10 years ago, last month, we had the upgrade. We and hundreds of other same-sex couples were finally permitted to be legally married. And I have to say, in some places, things are better. Since 1990s, over 40 countries have outlawed homophobic hate crimes. 30 out of 195 countries have passed equal marriage rights. But there are things that we should consider. Things are not good in some places. 65 countries criminalise private consensual same-sex activities. About half of these countries are in the Commonwealth. 41 countries criminalise private consensual sexual activity between women. 12 countries have jurisdictions in which the death penalty is imposed, or at least a possibility. 14 countries criminalise the gender identity and or expression of transgender people, and so on. And in the US, under the Trump administration, the then Attorney General Jeff Sessions announced sweeping guidance to protect religious liberty under the guise of introducing at least 417 anti-LGBT plus bills. It is unprecedented. The UK has tumbled down the list of safe countries. Hate crimes have reached dramatic numbers. Rainbow Europe now ranks us at 17th out of 49 countries for LGBT rights, and 9 years ago we were first. So it's a dramatic fall. According to the Home Office for the year 2021-2022, homophobic hate crime has increased by 41% and transphobic crime by 56%. So it's important that we know that. Equality is not something you have by degrees. Okay, you have it or you don't. And how we use language matters. And I'm horrified that some of the intemperate and unkind way of speaking, which I was completely used to back in the 70s, and which should be behind us, has reared itself once again in conversations, public conversations, in particular about the trans community. The gender-critical debate, which is critical and not a debate, is more like people shouting on a vast village green of idiots. That is social media. This discussion centres around some people's desire to split the world only in a binary way. Boys are boys, girls are girls. That's it. Well, have a look at this. Over Easter, my wife and I were in Copenhagen, and we came across a shop which offered to photograph our eyes. Now, I love a new thing. I thought, let's do that. It's incredibly expensive, but we did. This is a bizarre photograph of my wife. Debbie's in my right eye, so it won't surprise you, mine is the pale Scandi one on the top, and hers is the frankly much more attractive golden one on the bottom. We are both women. We are both white women. We are both educated white women. We are privileged, well cared for lesbians, yet look how different something so fundamental is in our makeup. There are nearly 8 billion people in the world, yet every single fingerprint, every iris is unique. No two people are the same. They are not even two identical experiences of the same event. Why would anybody think humanity can be divided simply into two camps with absolutely no exceptions? I think we are much more interesting than that. It's like believing in horoscopes. Can the whole of humanity really be divided into 12 groups? Can it really be that depending on the stars, a 12th of us are going to have a good fortune, a 12th will meet a tall, dark, handsome stranger, and a 12th ought to beware new beginnings? Is that? We used to be taught that humans were either XX or XY, but again, please know your science. The fact is there's a wide range of chromosomal types beyond the familiar XX and XY. Unique traits of all kinds. And it's been happened before when we try and crush human beings into binary pigeonholes. Bad science has done this before. So in the late 1700s, when you got the new democracies, you got America and France and so on, and women wanted to take part. Around that time, anatomists were analysing the human skeleton. Women had smaller craniums, bigger pelvises. Why? They must be designed for breeding, not for being in charge. And early dreams of equality were crushed. And in the 19th, 20th century, slavery often propped up by appalling anatomical suggestions of white superiority. The fact is, life is on a spectrum. We know this. Has anyone who's ever heard any of our politicians speak? Intelligence is clearly on a spectrum. And the current desire by some to insist on maintaining stark differences between men and women rather than considering life as a much more interesting proposition is one of the things currently destroying feminism. Women are pitted against women on this topic. Who benefits from that? Those who do not want women to have equality in the first place. History shows us that trans people have existed in different cultures across the human existence. It is not a new phenomenon. And some of the language now, it reminds me of Section 28, which was part of my young adulthood, which was brought in to stop people promoting homosexuality. Like you could, I don't know, give it to somebody to try and they could have a carriage clock to keep if they didn't like being a homosexual. I don't know what it was about promoting it. When people dare to tell you that our trans friends are part of some new wokery, please know your history. Please know how people come in a fabulous rainbow of diversity, and they always have. Toilets, oh dear God. Heavens, this gets a lot of coverage. Can I show you the sign I saw outside a public lavatory in Copenhagen? And it showed who the toilet was for. This is my favourite toilet sign. Everybody's got to go, right? Everybody. Do I think men are endlessly masquerading as trans women to gain access to single-sex spaces? No, I don't. Might one or two? Possibly, yes. Sure, but the kind of guy who wants to attack a woman in a public loo is probably going to do it anyway. I don't think that is the place most women should worry about being unsafe. The scariest place for a woman is probably her home. On average, a woman or girl is killed by someone in her own family every 11 minutes. Domestic violence is the leading cause of injury to women. There are so many real threats to women's safety. I mean, do we need to keep women safe? Of course we do. But the fact is that there are crazy individuals in every demographic who will bend the rules and cause havoc. And all the while, feminists are tearing each other apart over our lovely trans community. The misogynists, the right, are rubbing their hands because we are not talking about plummeting rape convictions, unequal pay, the erosion of reproductive rights, workplace discrimination, rampant online misogyny, an institutionally sexist police force, healthcare inequality, insufficient childcare provisions, or never being allowed to age. Those are the things we are not talking about. Feminists need to stand together. And we need all the help we can get, so I suggest we don't exclude anybody. Let's put out the welcome mat for everybody. I don't care which. Non-binary, queer, straight, intersex, gender non-conforming. In the play The Captive, which I mentioned at the beginning, in which identified lesbians with violence, the woman concerned, Irene, says of not being able to be herself, it's like a prison to which I must return captive, despite myself. And I don't want that for anyone. One of the things I've learned in my woodland is that we all do better to remember that we are part of nature. The world is not black and white, it's glorious shades of everything. And humans are not above it, we're part of it. We need to save the planet, sure. And if we're going to do something about climate change, then we need to rethink humanity's position and start remembering that we're not above nature. We should humble ourselves and be part of Mother Earth. And I've also learned that nothing will grow well without sunlight. I think we are in a dark place at the moment, a place of growing hatred and prejudice. The coffers of the anti-gay movement are overflowing. But you can shine a light yourselves by combating ignorance with a firm grasp of facts. When religious leaders start depending on Disney movies and books about wizards to make their argument, you know they are wading in the weeds of a nonsense. Please reach out with solid sense. If I had known just one gay person at Cambridge, it would have really helped. There wasn't a single LGBT group, there were no gatherings of any kind. This kind of lecture would have been unheard of. And the reason we've seen progress is because so many people have come out. And there can hardly be, I would think, a family or a business that hasn't, not a queer person who's left their mark. And that's how you make change. You stand up one person at a time. And if there is an area of your life where you feel you're not able to be yourself, do really think hard about trying to change that. Do not be a captive. Help yourself and help another. There's so much I wanted to talk about other things, but we haven't got the time. But for now, I ask each of you, gay, lesbian, bi, non-binary, trans, cis, straight, ally, whatever you came. Maybe some of you mistakenly thought it was going to be an art history lecture. I don't know. Stand up and be counted. You are the sunshine, okay? Hold ignorance to account by shining a light with facts. Support each other to cut down the dark lies so that, like the trees, we can spread out our arms and grow. And I take such heart in this gathering. I applaud Christ's College, led so kindly and thoughtfully by my friend Simon MacDonald, who I adore. I thank him for making the space. Sarah Franklin for bringing me here in the first place for what I now regard as my new home. There is a lot about the world which could make us depressed, but there's a Danish saying, "Intet er så dårligt, at der ikke kommer noget godt ud af det." Nothing is so bad that some good doesn't come out of it. And I have to believe that. I believe in you. I'm proud to be here. I'm proud to be the Q Fellow. In case you're wondering, violets are hermaphrodite. Thank you for your time, and for the evangelical radio host Kevin Swanson, who helped inspire me today, there is this.